Okay, we are back here, part 3
Hey.
of my interview here with Nightstalker Daniel Johnston, right where we left off, right at the tail end of ICWS DJ. Before we move on to WZWA talk,
Yeah.
I just want to ask you how much it meant to you to have Knuckles' last match, and what Knuckles as a friend means to you.
Fuck's sake. Hang on.
Just ignore
Got
that.
to turn off the fucking phone.
That's fine, mate. These things happen. After all, this is a backyard wrestling podcast, so...
That's alright, it's no fucking excuse.
So what does Nem mean to you as a friend from over the years? And to have his last match?
That motherfucker. Well, Nem has been one of my best friends since year 8. You know, it predates wrestling. And to have him say that first of all, just to have him say that he was done with wrestling, but he cared about it enough to have a good send-off and say, I really want it to be against Daniel.
Yeah.
That meant a lot to me. And then he brought his A-game to that match. Yeah. That was by far the best match he and I have ever had. And the crowd reaction was off the charts. It was physical. He took his time with planning it. You know...
It was just a perfect...
it was phenomenal. Perfect length.
The perfect ending to his run in backyard wrestling. And it was nice just for him to go off into the sunset, not just disappear out of nowhere. Like a Dante Daniels or a... You know,
it was also
people that came and went with no fanfare at the end.
And it was a special thing that I don't even think we planned at the time, but he ended up having his retirement match at Twisted Metal 7 years after he debuted. So that was really special at Twisted Metal 7, and he debuted at the first Twisted Metal, where he won the title. So I think that's really capped off his run in backyard wrestling nicely, and I had a lot of fun in that match, and I felt afterwards that it was a fitting part of the show. It fit in well with all the other elements that were on that card, so, you know.
Good stuff. Well, okay, so... We're done with ICWS now. Just wanted to talk about him quickly. But now, WZWA. It took you a little while to finally debut on the roster.
Right, because I was still associated with...
You're still doing the pro thing. You still had high hopes that you would be back in pro. And your first... your run in WCWA, for the first few months, you were basically... saying to me, I'm going to probably be leaving by October. And then maybe one more year, I might be done then.
How much further from the truth did that turn out to be?
No, and the problem was with booking for you that whole time was, I got to fit in as many matches with as many people that DJs never wrestled. But
what that did end up doing is really integrating me into the WZWA well.
Yeah. And
really... confirming my place as kind of like a locker room leader within that federation. And now I consider myself one of the major components of those cards.
Definitely. And you came in and you had the anti-hardcore backyard wrestling gimmick.
That's right, because at the time I was feeling, before I debuted, that a few of the hardcore matches had kind of overstepped the boundaries, and I thought... with that level of violence that we were putting on in some of those matches, we were basically playing into what the pros said we were.
Yeah.
By going to that degree of violence. And so I thought, here's me, I can come in with my style of wrestling and my character, and it would be a perfect fit to kind of go against... the hardcore stuff, which at that time, much to my chagrin, was becoming like what WZWA was sort of known for, which thankfully we've kind of moved away from that now, where the hardcore matches are back to being kind of a special attraction. Yeah. I thought it would also be a great way to actually have my first hardcore match and wrestle Chaos, finally having the opportunity where I feel like I could perform well against him. And have a good match.
And I'm in agreement with the hardcore stuff. For a while there, I was getting a little bit shut off with certain people. I'm not going to name any names, but basically, Dan Zeppelin and Antilochus had this amazing death match.
It was good. It was, but it wasn't too far though.
It didn't go too far. It
didn't
they
push
introduced
that.
the light tubes into WZWA.
And then everyone felt the need to top them instead of just trying to equal them, but do it in a different way.
Yeah, and what I was most annoyed at was the light tubes was Dan Zeppelin's thing. That was his gimmick.
And now it's like, you know, people just thought, well, how cool can I make myself?
Yeah,
with
I'm
the
going to
light
have
tubes?
a Hush next event. I need light tubes. You don't need light tubes.
Yeah,
You don't
exactly.
need-
It takes away the luster of like the effectiveness of using that. I would just call it a prop because that's what this is. This is performance art. It's theatre.
And some of the guys get annoyed at me because I want to have a ladder match. Sorry, I'll only have maybe one a year because I want it to be important. You do it every other event.
Yeah,
it doesn't mean shit.
If it was that fucking effective, then every stage performance you'd have like Peter Pan flying around off wires during Fiddler in the Roof.
Yeah.
If it was that effective of a plot device. But it's not. It works when you use it sparingly.
Yeah, and at the right time, right place.
And with the right people as well.
Yeah, and it's...
I think that Dan Zeppelin and Antilochus, they should be using light tubes. You don't need light tubes if you want to have KY Fusion take on Arthur Aries in a hardcore match.
Yeah.
They don't need it.
They don't. Maybe a table, maybe a couple of chairs. That's all they need. They'll be creative enough.
They don't
to have
need
a
the
great
tubes.
Match. No.
They don't need the tubes.
No one has ever really needed them. It's just something now people seem to think they need them in order to have a great hardcore match.
And
but
it's just not
I'm
true.
Never really that
it's
impressed.
just what's really that impressive about a flume of white smoke.
Yeah, not that much.
Coming up after a bump, especially if like you can't actually visually see the light tubes themselves.
Yeah.
The best light tube spots are ones where you actually go, oh fuck, like
yeah.
When KY got thrown out of the ring through the light tubes that were in the ropes.
That were stuck to the
That's
ropes,
an example of how to use them effectively because the audience could see the light tubes instead of like them being covered up by the person bumping on top of them, for example. You know?
Exactly.
It's hard to believe that light tubes hurt more if you get power bombed on them, for example, than getting power bombed onto the railing or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So we did this anti-hardcore gimmick. It didn't seem to last the test of time.
It sort of evolved.
It
took on a life of its own.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, where should we start with this WZWA run?
Well, let's talk about your match with BMX.
Right.
This is your debut match, isn't it?
That motherfucker. Yeah, it was.
His first proper match on the card. He had a dark match the previous event against
Ice. And I
Ice.
heard that it was a really good match too.
Oh, the first match with Ice? Yeah, it was. That guy, he had just that natural ability to just listen to the experienced guys and he'd go out there and have a great match. And
well, see, my theory now is he had that ability because it was with his friend.
Yeah.
But he didn't like responding to instructions from other people that he didn't know because he was a disrespectful little shit.
Yeah, he was a bit of an arsehole. And I want to
let's face it, he's the guy that's on the thread making fun of people for wearing tights.
Yeah.
We're fucking wrestlers, like wrestlers wear tights.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
And he's a perfect example of someone who doesn't get it. Like how he said, I don't know who he said it to. I don't know if it was me or if it was Chaos or Ice. He said, "Oh, why am I losing to this guy? I could beat him in a real fight."
And that doesn't. If wrestling was real, at the moment, Brock Lesnar would still have the belt.
Yeah.
In WWE, hands down.
Yeah.
Simple.
Yeah, exactly. And that was one thing that I arced up about with him.
And I didn't really. He responded well within the confines of the basic match that we did, but I was quite disappointed with him as a person. And after I had that first match, I just knew that he wasn't going to last.
And he didn't last.
And to be honest with you, I kind of wish I could go back and redo my first match back with like Ryan or something, someone who has that passion.
I think at the time there were a little bit of problems between you and I. Because your debut kept getting pushed back and pushed back and pushed back because you still weren't ready to leave pro wrestling. You couldn't make the jump. You kept saying, book me for the next show.
But then finally and then finally I did take that step.
And I'm glad you did.
And I came back and it was the right fit at that time and everything was good, but he was just not... I really still look at those early WZWA matches and think that that was kind of the Daniel Johnston from ICWS. Sort of not on the elite kind of level that I feel that I'm on now. You know, a lot of people say, like, Shawn Michaels, The Undertaker, for example. I would never compare myself to those guys. I'm using as an analogy, for example, a lot of people say, yeah, they can't do as much stuff athletically, but fuck, they can still tell a good story. You know, Sting at this past WrestleMania can still tell a good story, but he's not exactly going out and doing crisscrosses on the ropes and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's the way that I look at it with my own wrestling matches. But I felt that debut match, the only thing that was good about it was that I hit him hard, and he didn't have the balls to hit back because he just doesn't. It doesn't click with him. I knocked him out with that lariat to the back of the head, like, you know.
Good.
And it wasn't a deliberate thing of me just taking liberties with him and just going, fuck this guy, like, because I wanted to work with him, but, you know, he took the lariat wrong. He didn't bump in time with it, and that's what he copped for it.
So after this, we went to a short feud between you and Chaos.
That was a really, really fun time in my run, because Chaos is probably... I can't really rank my best friends, but Chaos is more like a brother. He's just... he's been my rock through so much personal shit, and he's someone that I plan to be friends with, along with, like, you know, a few others. They all know who they are. Like, you know, you just plan to be friends with them for the rest of your life. So it was really special for me being able to wrestle him, and he took really good care of me in that hardcore match. Didn't pussyfoot around it, like he laid in those weapon shots, you know. I thought we had a really fun hardcore match that didn't overdo it with the violence.
It was,
you know?
good. It was really solid.
It took the more simplistic elements and made them special, you know?
Yeah.
Hit in the head with the ladder looked brutal, and everyone was like, oh, you know? Kendo stick shots to the backs of the legs, you know? That sort of minuscule level of hardcore violence was magnified in that match, and that was essentially an inside thing of me trying to give a message to the other boys in the locker room of saying, look, you don't have to go too crazy even if there are weapons involved. You can still have a great match where people just go, fuck, that looks physical. You know? Yeah. It came across as if, like, Chaos didn't even need the weapons because I was so out of my element.
Yep.
You know, that was the culmination of that feud. And once that happened, I was really starting to get kind of a lot more back into it, because I was starting to feel like the road I'd gotten on the road to becoming where I'm at now, which I'm obviously really happy with. And that led into the match with Antilochus, I'm pretty sure, the British Rules match.
Yep.
So overall, every time I've ever wrestled Chaos, whether it's been a perfectly good match where the stars aligned or just a passable match that was okay for what we did, it's always been a ton of fun. And at the end of the day, I think we always both end up coming out of it having learnt something new about what we can apply in the future. And it's always been a lot of fun wrestling.
Well, I must say, you know, the next few months were tough on the booking side for me, because we just, you know, really started to get quite a lot of people on the roster. So
it was bloated at that point.
It felt like a lot of people were slightly getting lost in the shuffle. You were still having a match every show, cutting your promo before every match and all that.
I felt like I was doing well.
We did a short little thing with you and Three Dog, which was just one...
Culminated at the Revolution.
Culminated after one event. Then from there, I believe there was a victory over Mykonos, and then we're building you up.
One of my favourite matches as well, I should mention as well. That's where I really started to feel, alright, I can have a bad match, but it's 90% likely that it's going to be good by that point. I'd started to feel, by the match with Mykonos, that I'd finally started to become comfortable in my own skin, and we had a great physical physical match where we both looked really strong, and I took a bump on the outside, and you know, the crowd was just into it, and it was just loved it.
And you know, what we're doing at this point, we're building you for the Aussie title, because you were going to be the one to take the title off Rex Regan. Now, in January of that year, at ICWS, you had a match with Rex Regan where even you guys were fooling me into believing that you might have actually walked away with the championship, despite the fact that Brad Hazard has given me the
you've got the jurisdiction
over the title. Such a great match, and it was that match where I said to myself, DJ's going to be the next Aussie champion. We're going to get that belt on him in the next 6 months. So we're building up to it, and now, DJ, you found out that you're going to become the GBYWN Australian Heavyweight Champion. Yeah. How did that feel?
And I feel like we can't go further until I actually mention that match with Chris, because that's probably one of my top 3 favourite of all time. Mm-hmm. And that was the Resolution weekend, so I went from meeting Rusty and having just a great weekend.
We'll talk about Rusty.
Great match with 3 Dog. Like you said, we had that little thing the day before.
Yeah.
And then to go and have that match with Chris, I was like, I cannot wait to wrestle this guy again. It was just... And it was... I got to give tons of the credit for Chris, to Chris for just making me look like $1,000,000 that whole time. I mean... Wow. Like, what can you say other than Rex Regan can wrestle?
Yeah.
He knows what he's doing. And that's always got a special place in my heart. So then I found out that I'd be winning. And the first thing that actually popped into my head was, yes, I get to have another match against Chris. I can't wait to go there again. The second match wasn't as good as the first one, but not for lack of trying. It's more one of those things where you can't really catch the lightning in the bottle.
Yeah.
You know, the second Shawn Michaels Undertaker match at Mania wasn't as good as the first. But it's not because they didn't have a really good match. It's just because you can't match those intangibles that happened on the first one. We had what I felt was another great match, but it was great for different reasons. The first one had a lot more like feeling out process. This one was more of like we already knew what to expect, so we just went straight into it. And there was a lot of like psychologically, there was a lot of follow-on from that first match where he tried to lock me into that submission that he beat me with the first match, and I knew how to avoid it this time. And so, yeah, really gratifying feeling winning that belt. I guess, if anything, I didn't really like that the finish of that match was used to further another angle that Chris was doing. I believe it was the feud with Dark Ice. Because I rolled him up after distraction, so for me to win the title like that, I would have preferred it to be like a clean finish, but that's just kind of nitpicking. Like, I thought the match was great. I thought the crowd's reaction afterwards was just amazing. You know, I felt like I was on point with my reaction after winning that belt. Definitely one of the moments of that show. So, yeah, I was happy with it. And I was really excited to finally have a belt. Because I felt at that point that I could warrant holding a title. Yeah. I wasn't just holding a title because of who I was as a person. I was holding a title because I genuinely was good enough as a wrestler to hold that belt. So... definitely really appreciative to Rex and yourself, and it was a really gratifying feeling to win the belt. So, fucking great match. Like, I really enjoyed it as well. So,
yeah, and your title reign. I mean, obviously, I would have liked for it to have gone a bit longer. But at the time, I was under the impression you were leaving in September, so I knew that at some point you were going to have to drop that belt to someone.
Well, I still think that the way that we ended up doing it ended up organic, though, because we planned together, what if you dropped the belt to Acid, I should say. What if you dropped it only a couple of events after holding it, and then everyone will be shocked that this guy's just, you know, who's already been on a roll, comes in and just continues that roll as if it's no biggie.
Yeah.
And just kind of undoes your feel-good moment. And I was on board because Acid's just one of my close friends as well, and I love him. And at that time, I was under the impression that this guy was going to be champion within the next year.
Yeah.
Flat out. So I was happy to do it, and it was a great little feud that we did with us both playing a few mind games and me trying to avoid getting into contact with him. I would just kind of throw Steel under the bus. And then the match itself, I was just really happy with it as well. You know, I got a few moves in there, but not too much that it damaged Acid's credibility.
Yeah.
Because this was a guy who basically walked in and dominated Dark Ice the event before. So he threw me around like a ragdoll. All of his moves had impact. He got height.
Yeah.
The blue thunder bomb he hit on me just literally stopped people in their tracks, and they were like, "How the fuck did he throw someone that big?" Because I've lost some weight now, but at the time I was a lot heavier. I was probably at my most unfit at that point. And it was just like I was a small child. He just picked me up and threw me around. Yeah. So it was a great match. I remember he hooked both of my legs after he hit that move and just decisively hit the pin. There was no fanfare about it. He just hoisted up the belt looking like a badass and just stood over my mangled corpse. And it came across great. I wasn't bothered at all that I didn't hold it for that long. I thought that the shock factor of me losing it that quickly worked. And then when I decided that I wasn't going to be leaving after all, I still thought that it was worthwhile doing that, because really, if I had the belt, there's only so long that I could go just wrestling matches, and that's kind of the standard thing we do with title holders already. So it was good to do something a bit different. A little
bit different for once. Now, obviously, we mentioned Steel, so we better dig our fingernails deep into this.
Yeah.
Why did you ask me to be Steel's manager? What did you see in him? Had you really had much interaction with him before you decided that this is what you wanted to do? Why Steel Kemsley? And obviously, let's talk about the evolution of Steel Kemsley since you joined his side.
I'll be really blunt about it. Steel was basically a bad wrestler. I'm really sorry to Steel to have to say that, but at the time, he was bad in the ring. And it was through no fault of his own, because he had to basically go it alone. Everyone wanted to watch his matches in a similar sense to how I said they like to watch him now. But it was basically to laugh at him, to laugh and make fun at his expense of how inept he was in the ring with selling and taking bumps and stuff. And I got sick of it, because he was a guy who was always showing up for those shows, always coming and doing his match, never no-showing. If he didn't come, we'd always hear about it, that he wouldn't be able to make it. And he was a guy who was showing the same level of commitment as anyone else in WZWA, but he was getting not an ounce of respect. Nobody was trying to help him. When he got feedback, he didn't get any kind of constructive criticism besides people making fun of him and stuff. And I thought, fuck this, he deserves more. I'm going to sort of team up with him so I can cut promos for him, because Lord knows that wasn't his strong suit.
Well, he actually, to be honest, in comparison to someone maybe like a Jack Wallace, Steel wasn't too bad on the microphone. He still got his point across. He didn't and and he didn't talk too quietly.
He did
and
have
sorry,
it in
Jack,
this...
but at the beginning you weren't very good.
He did have that sense of, like, he knew he was supposed to be a heel and that he needed to talk down to the audience.
Yeah.
But he didn't really have that kind of thing where he could put himself and his opponent over.
Yeah. I think the straw that broke the camel's back was that match with Ace. And I think that was before you were with him, wasn't it?
And I was disgusted by the way that people reacted to him, because I know what it's like to have not been that great in the ring myself, and just wishing that you could be getting feedback for positive reasons,
Yeah, and at the time when I did see that match, I was like, that was a god-awful match. I feel bad for them. That was my fault.
It wasn't god-awful because they just did shit. It was god-awful.
I shouldn't put them together. I shouldn't have done that.
And so then from there, from a storyline perspective, that's why I chose to become his manager, so that I could be a mouthpiece. Because I was kind of a bigger name. Obviously, no one in backyard wrestling is famous, but when I say that I'm a bigger name, or I say something that comes across egotistical, I refer to it in the context of backyard wrestling.
If you're listening and you don't understand that and you're having a laugh, just understand it in the context of backyard wrestling. Saying DJ or me are a huge name, it's it's nothing egotistical.
It's within the context of our little clubhouse,
of our little world.
Yeah, of our little treehouse.
Yes.
So by association, I knew straight away that Steel would start getting more over, and then I started taking him in the ring before all of his matches and actually going over like the basics: how to do a clothesline, how to take a clean back bump, how to do elbow drops and stuff like that. And that started to show right away in his matches because I'd go over it over and over and over again with him until it was drummed in. And then at first I'd have to physically sit there and plan his matches for him. Me and his opponent would just get together and I'd be like, alright, you guys do this, 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 and this. Then after a while it started where he'd need advice on a couple of spots. So he'd come to me and be like, what do you think we can do here? And then after a while, I believe he had a match against Aries where he got the surprise upset and rolled him up. And I had no involvement in it. I had no knowledge that he was going to win. So my reaction to that was genuine.
The finish was amazing.
The finish was fucking just...
so fucking cool, man.
So fucking cool.
Came out of nowhere. I popped. Big
time. Oh, man. I popped. I kind of came in my pants a little bit. But, So then by that point, he was basically good enough to have a good match on his own. There was still a few things that needed to be tightened up, but by that point he's almost, let's face it, I used to consider myself to be like, crowd reaction wise, probably the most over guy in the Fed as a character. But now Steel has taken that place. Yeah. And I'm kind of secondary to him because we had what I would consider not a great show at the last event, and he still got the biggest reaction of the event because he's just so fucking lovable and cute. Like, everybody just loves him. And so by that point, he was having great matches on his own, and he just needed to work on his strikes and tightening a few things up, which that led to the match where he challenged me to a proving ground match at Resolution where he would basically show off what he's learned. And whether he was ready to go out on his own. And the interesting thing about that, which I'm going to say right away that I really liked about it, was that it wasn't a personal feud. It was basically him trying to earn my approval, which was really cool. Because we were still friends at the end of it, but we were going to have a match and see really where Steel was at in kayfabe. And really in real life as well. It was like art imitating life.
Yeah.
Because really this was the most important match that Steel was going to have thus far.
Yeah, and I know everyone was dying for Steel to get the big win, but I just didn't think it was the right time, not just yet, for anything like that to happen. I thought it would just tell a good story. He almost got there, but he's not quite there
and
yet.
should I go through the actual...
And it's a realistic way of going about a story like that. Sometimes people in life will attempt something that they
and even if you fail at it, you've made progress by just the attempt.
Yeah, and the valiant tells the story of that.
And he got up as a character after being knocked down and continued to be awesome. And one day he will get that win over me. So, should I go through the actual match or?
Why not? Resolution 3. What an amazing event. Steel Kemsley versus Daniel Johnston. Great match. How did it go?
Okay, so this match, I knew that this had to be Steel's best match if it was going to live up to the hype. And it was a big event, and I wanted a good match as well. And to be honest, I'd known about this being my Resolution match for quite some time. And at first, when I first found out about it, I was still nervous that... whether Steel would be able to hold his end of the bargain. But by that time that it actually came around, we'd become a lot closer, and the planning of this match and the match itself made us even closer as friends. And I brought him to my house the week before, and we meticulously planned it out, and I showed him exactly, this is how you counter the skull-crushing finale perfectly. If you're going to do this strike, it needs to be laid in exactly this way. And we went over it over and over again in my backyard and physically wrote it down in an exercise book and then discussed it day in and day out on Facebook, exactly so that he knew what was happening. Then we got into the ring and practiced anything that he wasn't totally confident about. And I said, don't worry about a thing, you just bring the aggression and I'll guide you through it. And just the start of the match where he sort of took a play out of my book and slapped me in the face.
That was awesome.
He slapped me in the face and I just got a ringing in my ears and I was like, fuck, what have I created here? Then he just took me down and starts like pounding my temple and he was hitting me so fucking hard and I was just marking out at the same time while being a little frightened of him, to be honest with you.
You always know all the best matches seem to always have the people from the crowd come up to the ring and surround the ring and stamp their hands on the mat.
And all of his strikes were on point. Every single spot went without a hitch.
Not a hitch.
I said to him, it'll look really cool if you, instead of doing like one cannonball and going to the Faymaster, do 3 of them and then hit a swanton. Like you're really trying to pull out all the stops and then I'll still kick out. And then go to the well that one too many times and make the mistake and I'll move.
Showing
and
the inexperience, telling a story.
But he'd also gained so much experience that he nearly beat me.
Yeah.
I mean, when he hit that headlock driver at the beginning, I think people legitimately thought it might be 3.
Thought it might be over, yeah. Well, I was standing there thinking DJ didn't switch the finish on me, did he?
And I was like so proud of him and the look on his face, the smile on his face afterwards where he was like, that was so fun. That was my favourite match ever. And everyone comes up to him and just says, like, wow, Steel, that was a great job. That was why I teamed up with Steel. That's why. To get that moment. To get him feeling like he deserved to be there and, like, everyone respected him.
Yeah.
Same as he respects them. And then this past show, he still had one of the better matches of the whole event. Because I said, what you did in my match against you, you do that from now on in every match. And lo and behold, he comes out there, his strikes look good, he's aggressive, he didn't get lost. He knew what to do to like transition from one thing to the next. He busted out a new move, he did like a sit-out powerbomb.
Yeah.
He's going great. And I give him all the credit in the world for that. He always had that in him. He just needed someone to say, look, Steel, this is what you need to improve on. And look at where he is now.
Yeah, he's light years ahead of where he was.
I see no problem with him one day winning a title, winning the backyard title or something like that. It's just, he's just doing fantastic and he's an integral part of the mid-card now.
Yeah, and
he's so fucking over.
Yeah, he's
so
probably the most over.
Oh, yeah, fuck, man. Like, where he goes to do his entrance and people are just crowding around the aisleway so they can slap 5 with him.
I'm just saying, Mykonos, watch out, bro. You know?
Yeah, like, just, I mean, it's phenomenal. It is. Like, it sounds kind of cheesy, and it is just backyard wrestling, but to take a person that had no self-esteem about their wrestling and didn't quite feel like they belonged in the social group, and then to have them go, wow, I feel like I'm finally not shit anymore. I'm finally feeling happy with where I'm going. That's one of my proudest accomplishments in backyard wrestling. He does, yeah.
Yeah, well, okay, I'm going to backtrack a little bit. There's one match I want to talk about that you had Backyard TV, the Friday night before Resolution.
Oh, that's right.
I was only able to get
3 days, three great matches.
3 matches, but I was only able to get Rusty to wrestle only a certain amount of people. He was going to wrestle me. He was going to wrestle Dan Zeppelin on Sunday. Friday night, I had several people ask me, I want to wrestle Rusty. Nope, sorry. It's already going to be for DJ. Okay.
Because this was a guy that I'd been watching since I was a kid. I loved him, and he was just so fucking good in the ring, and I was like, I'm so privileged. And it's ironic as well, because I've now had Rusty's first match back in yarding, and I've had Tommy Taboo's last match ever. And it's a privilege to have been able to do that with guys that I looked up to and watched when I was younger.
And that's why.
And then have them actually say, you're a great wrestler, DJ. I'm privileged to wrestle you, and they consider me great friends.
And that's why I booked the match with Rusty, because I knew it meant a lot to you to wrestle.
Yeah, and Rusty had a bad back, and after like the first bump that he took, his back was already fucked. But for me, for my sake, he continued on because he knew what it meant to me, and we had a great little match. You know, Was it a crazy YWF flippy match? No. But was it a solid match where he could get used to being in the ring and taking bumps and taking hits? Yes, it was, and I'm really proud of it, and I think it's turned out well. Went for the perfect length, you know.
Yeah.
I think it really got me in the mood for Resolution Weekend. I was just so happy with it. And then to have Rusty fly back to Melbourne and say that if he lived here, he'd be my best friend. That's just the best thing in the world.
Yeah.
Is to just know that this guy I've been watching for years and lives across the country, we just clicked, you know.
Yeah, and I was proud of you because after the shows, after Friday Night Backyard TV, after Resolution, you were always sitting next to him, asking him questions, talking to him, making him feel welcome. You made that effort. A lot of people didn't, but you made that effort to really get to know him.
And it's not... I really hope that this podcast, people don't think that I'm just tooting my own horn. I'm only saying it how I legitimately see it. But
look, if you're saying something that's wrong, I'll pick up on it and give it to you.
Because that match that I had against Russ was genuinely another one of my favourites, just for personal reasons, you know. I'd love the chance to wrestle him again on a proper show someday. But for right there at that time, I wouldn't change that experience for anything. It was just a really rewarding experience, much like the match with Taboo. But the match with Tabs was a bit more impromptu, and the one with Rusty was like I arrived there and I just met Rusty a bit before that, and I remember when we were planning it, you had that little tiff with Rex, and we actually thought it was a joke, and we just stopped and looked over at you having this little fucking fight with him, and I was like, shit. But then, because I just thought, man, I hope this doesn't ruin things for Carl, because I really want to see what he thinks of this match. And lo and behold, the match seemed to get you back into it.
I was concerned because I was thinking, I hope Russell doesn't think that this is something that happens all the time. It was just a once-off bad situation.
No, I told Russ, though.
Oh, you told him nothing like that?
Yeah. So, yeah, really proud of that. Really fucking proud.
Yeah.
Just great, yeah. I mean, nothing more I can really say about it other than I hope that he enjoyed it as much as I did, the match, you know.
Yeah.
The sex afterwards was a bonus, but the match itself...
Yeah. Oh, great, man.
I really hope that he got as much out of it as I did.
Well, who was taking it? Who was receiving?
Oh, man. I was receiving.
You were receiving.
With a beard like that, you don't ask questions. You just take a sip of wine.
So he was top, you were bottom.
Take a sip of wine and just move on with it.
Okay, red wine?
Oh, you know, bit of sparkle.
Really? Bit of sparkling?
Yeah.
You need that to loosen up.
Pulled out all the stops.
Did he pull out all the stops?
Yeah, but he didn't pull out, though.
Oh, he didn't?
So I had to take a pregnancy test the next day. But,
okay, you don't want to be like Arnie.
But the match was fucking sick, though.
Yeah, the match was great, yeah. It was awesome.
So,
yeah.
you know.
If only we filmed that might get more views.
Yeah. I doubt it, but, you know.
Fair enough. Well, okay, so let's move on from this subject.
See, now you're going to get the giggles now because I've just, said that with such a straight face.
All good, it's all good. Okay, so, recently WZWA have been having a few problems. To go from the heights of Resolution 3 to where we're at right now, it's a pretty tough situation to be in. Obviously, for those playing at home, we are losing our venue and we've got to find a new venue, but we're still not sure. We might be able to keep the venue, but we don't know what's really going on. Well, because
I don't want to say too much, but I've heard rumours that that move might not be going ahead, so we'll see. Fingers crossed. But, sorry, continue.
No, that's okay, yeah. So the future of WZWA right now is in question, but how did you feel after Resolution 3, the heights that we were at with Resolution 3, and then to all of a sudden be at the point we're at now where the future's uncertain, or even just before we had Hard Time 4, when it looked like it was going to be all over?
Well, I remember I was one of the only people that wasn't in favour of a hiatus. I don't like a hiatus. I want a match every 4 weeks. I will never change my mind on that. I don't care what's going on. Even if it's exam time, you just do the show outside of exam time. Exam time is what? 2 weeks. Do a show before that. Don't do the next show until after.
Yeah.
Simple. We got through TE and we still did regular ICWS. So I was not in favour of the hiatus. I'm not in favour of moving the venue or in any way changing the frequency of events. I think in order to have a healthy backyard wrestling federation, you have to do at least once a month.
Yeah.
Or else, if you can wait 2 months, you might as well wait 4 months, and then sooner or later it's like ICWS, and you're not doing any shows at all.
Or XCW.
So my attitude is, and I don't want to be mean to anyone who's left, or if you left because of commitments or because of you lost interest, good on you. That's what you should do. If you're still here and you're not interested in doing an event every month and you don't get that feeling of joy from doing this anymore, don't do it anymore. Leave. Because we don't need as many people as we've got as it is to run a really great fed.
Oh, I mean, we had so many bloody people.
And I'll just say, and it might come across harsh, but I've never been one to mince words. If you don't want to be here, don't be here.
Fair enough.
This is for the people that really love wrestling. That's what it's for. The people that don't give a fuck what people think about wrestling or backyard wrestling. They just want to be the best that they can be. It's for the Ryan Tates and the Aston Crews and the Blades and, you know, I can't name everybody, but they all know who they are, the guys that always put in 120%. And so it's been a really trying time for me, but I'm trying to stay positive, and I won't let yarding in WA die. If something happens to WZWA, I'll have no choice but to start putting shows back on. Because I can't really live without backyard wrestling. I love it too much. It's how I see my extended group of friends. It's kind of like a special occasion where you only see your uncles and aunties and cousins on, like, you know, special occasions. That's what this is like. I see my core group of friends all the time, but I don't want to stop seeing guys like Blade or Circus or anything like that either.
You know, like, and this is how I feel about these recent retirees, like your Clint Marshalls, Brian Lowe, Alex Stone, Mike Delcano, I think there's someone else, but anyway,
Nick Ariel,
you know, but with Nick, you know, I'm closer friends with him, so I do see him. But I said to Brian Lowe, I'm upset that you want to stop, because when am I ever going to see you again? I only ever see him at
exactly.
shows.
I never see Brian.
You know, and I'll be sad to not see him anymore. Even like someone like Clint Marshall, Zibby. Like, I never see him outside unless we bump into each other somewhere.
Which, how often will that happen?
You know, rarely. I mean, I was in Leaderville a couple months ago, and he was working, I don't know, I can't remember now if he works at like a coffee place or something like that.
Yeah.
But, you know, I ran into him there. You know, it was good to see him and all that. But when am I ever going to spend time?
You know, it's like, when are you ever going to spend extended time sinking back brews and stuff like that?
Yeah, it never happens.
And so, if you think that I've got kind of a militant, narrow-minded view of it, whatever. This is my podcast, my opinion.
Actually, this is my podcast, but it's your
opinion.
Your opinion.
So, anyways,
on my podcast.
Right. Another Carl Appreciation Day.
Oh, we don't need another one of those. All right, look, I want to get back onto something else.
All right,
we've talked about that.
But
there's one subject that just dawned on me that I can't believe we haven't spoke about yet, and that is the Broken Highway Mafia.
Right, that little saga.
Oh my God, there's so much to say about this whole thing.
All right, and I'm guessing that there's one particular member that this is.
It's going to be about
around.
him, and you know, I don't want it to be anything like a rag on this guy or anything.
Well, it's going to come across that way to certain people, no matter how we word it. So, Brandon Cage, if you're listening to this, we love you. You're my friend. I'm always there for you. And what I might have to say about what happened with that circumstance within wrestling is totally separate from the love and respect that I have for you as a person.
Exactly.
Okay?
Now, when you said I want to be with Steel, help him out, awesome. Now Steel was doing a lot of good things, and he was doing something every show. He wasn't just wrestling.
That's right. He was contributing something meaningful to each time.
And so I had Brandon. You know, he was only supposed to have a couple of matches because he was moving back to Victoria.
Right, that's right. And he was going to start his own fed, and then he decided to stay.
So I said, "Shit, okay. Well, I have no idea what to do with this guy because I've already got all the booking booked up until Resolution. So I had to change a few things around. But then I thought, why not put him with DJ? We'll do this whole thing like DJ's School of Wrestling. He's got 2 young guys and he's building them up. And then maybe at one point there's a power struggle for who's going to be in charge, whatever. But that will be months down the line. You know?
Yes,
that
okay.
was the general idea.
So then, here's where I come in. I agree to take him on. And immediately from day dot, he doesn't mesh with me and Steel. From a wrestling standpoint. As a friend, I love Brandon. He's great to talk to. You know, I love hanging out with him. He's just a smart, intelligent, articulate young man, and like, you know, I'm privileged to have him as a friend. But from a wrestling point of view, we did not mesh.
Why?
He's did not approve of mine and Steele's ideas for the most part. We knew that the most effective we could be would be to kick ass in the ring, but have goofier, more fun-loving personalities. We knew that that's what
because I was getting to a point because I was trying to turn you and Steel babyface because
we've basically been babyface for a long time anyway.
But you're acting heel,
right? Yeah. So and then we came up with the Broken Highway Mafia, which didn't turn out exactly the way I wanted.
Well,
but
I didn't
that
really
was
like the name
as a result of bowing down to the compromises we had to make for Brandon, and then. Frankly, as we discussed stuff and thought up ideas, I felt that Brandon sort of made fun of Steel and was condescending to Steel a lot of the time, even though he was the one doing the graphics work for us and stuff. And I felt that that was a little bit disrespectful, and I'm just being honest, I'm not having a shot at Brandon.
No.
That's how I felt at the time.
Because he is a nice guy.
And he's a fucking just a top bloke.
It's just
he's
with wrestling, it's just a little bit different, that's all.
Really, I think in hindsight, Brandon needed to do his own thing.
Yeah.
And I think after a couple of months of trying it, we all knew that would be the case.
It wasn't working, and so that's why you'll know.
That
that's why you'll
leads to
see
the
Broken
issues.
Highway Mafia was just.
It was pretty much a non-factor.
Yeah.
It was basically me and Steel, and Brandon was with us for a couple of events.
Yeah.
Inexplicably, really.
Yeah.
So then that leads to the next part, which is really more your territory.
Well,
and
he
I
shot
only
himself
came
in the
because
foot. He shot himself in the foot because he was trying to find a way to get away from this Broken Highway Mafia thing. So he, after only just joining and not really giving it
a try anyway, because he still had the opportunity to have his own niche and to be that kind of punk indie hipster sort of persona that he wanted to get across. No one, me or Steel, we never said you can't be that. We just said we want you to adapt it to what we're doing, because our gimmick is already working for us. If your association with us is going to be effective, you need to shift to what we're trying to do as well, while remaining yourself. And he just didn't want to do that.
And I think a big problem was him going behind your back to me and
that
pitching the idea of getting the Broken Highway Mafia name from you two and starting his own stable.
And he didn't even fully come up with that name himself, but I don't give a fuck. It's a name. It's not really, wasn't copyrighted, you know. No. But I was offended that he went behind my back simply because I thought that he was happy to be part of our little trio.
I think he was just trying to find a way to get himself a push, because he had lost a couple of matches at that point.
Yeah, and that's understandable. I understand that some people come into yachting with that perspective, because I remember when Meek and us started yachting, he was very much like, you know, I want the belt and that sort of shit. Yeah. Not in an arrogant way, but he just was looking out for himself.
Yeah, a lot of people are like that, you know. So I think Brandon wanted to get himself... He didn't want to keep losing or something like that.
And that's understandable, especially for someone that's new to wrestling.
But he didn't have to go about it in that way where he said, I'm retiring now. So he did his retirement speech, and then before even the next show happened, he was pitching ideas for his return. And I'm like, you just retired. The show previously, you said in 2 years' time I'm going to be at the top of WZWA. The following show you retire. Now he's pitching ideas about coming back as a masked character. He's pitching ideas to come back as a vigilante like Sting.
Which I wouldn't have minded that if he actually had have put more thought into it and not tried to do it at the expense of fucking me over. Because when I went with Steel, my whole thing in wrestling at that time was just how much I can help Steel, because I didn't have to worry about myself.
Yeah.
So, and then I felt that Brandon breached that level of trust that was there to some degree.
I think the problem
it was never a personal issue. We always got along great as friends, but it was just, you know...
When it came to wrestling, he was going to the beat of his own drum.
And that was why, in retrospect, he should have always just been allowed to go to the beat of his own drum, you know, and just not had to worry about the restrictions that...
And I got angry at him because I said to him, look, Circus Royale lost almost every match they had for 18 months.
And look how over they got. Look how over they got by losing those matches.
You can't just come in and then suddenly you're a big part. You gotta build up a little bit. It's going to take time. You'll get there eventually.
Absolutely.
You had to realise we had 26 other people on the roster, people who've been there for years.
Absolutely.
And you know that was the only real problem I had with him. He didn't know what he wanted.
Like, how long did Mykonos flounder in WZWA, even though he'd been a top level guy in ICWS?
Ages.
How long did Tim Justice flounder in ICWS?
Yeah.
Because basically I was a dick and said you got to earn my respect first. But then look how over he got by the time we did that thing where it looked like he won the belt, you know?
Exactly.
It's all with a greater goal in mind, and I think that whether it's pro wrestling or backyard wrestling, people need to kind of put their natural, inborn ego at the door and sort of try to look at things on a bigger scale. And just sort of think, well... They wouldn't be doing this if it was to deliberately hold me down, because everyone else is doing all this awesome shit. It's not because they get favoured over me. It's because everyone can't just do exactly the same thing. Not everyone can be the badass.
And a lot of people want what they want when they want it and how they want it. And a lot of the times they just can't get that because it affects other people.
And I think that's the thing that affects...
Like
every
it would affect
wrestler.
you. It was going to affect you and Steel by him coming up with this. Because now,
but
what
see,
you're
we
doing
were
is
actually
based
we
on
were
what he
doing
wants.
we were doing what we were told to do, and then now all of a sudden I felt like it was watered down. I was going to the events and I was pretty much not interested in doing those segments. Like, you know, I didn't really throw my heart into it because I thought it was bullshit, and who knew whether or not fucking it was going to change a month down the track because Brandon had been in your ear.
Yeah.
Pitching something else, and then you, just to get him off your back, would have had to acquiesce to his demands.
See, we had a booking committee.
Because it's almost like writing the script to like the 50th Nightmare on Elm Street sequel, where like 20 different people have to work on that script, and it just ends up watered down. And, you know.
Well, it's like WWE creative now,
but
you know, he retired, then he wanted to come back. And
he didn't know what he wanted. It was the same as Mykonos when he first debuted, or didn't know who he wanted to be, and now finally just extended his own natural personality, and look how happy and good he is now.
And
it's not really, you can't fully blame Brandon for it either, because it's just some people have such passion for wanting to
do what they want to
be the best they think they can be, that they don't see any other way other than their perfect vision for achieving what they want to achieve.
Exactly.
And that's something that affects all of us from time to time.
Yeah. And you know, once again, just want to say it, Brandon's a good guy. He's just...
we love you, Brandon. We love you. We're not saying anything negative about Brandon. I think he does great in the ring. I think he looks great. I think he throws himself into every match he has, and you can see him really having that passion. And once again, I think he's a great friend, and I think people who know him are lucky to have him in their lives. But
I think he's made a mistake retiring a second time after.
I do think so as well. I think he has a lot to offer. I think now that he's not with the Steel and I, now he could really hit his peak.
His best days were ahead of him.
He could still be in his prime now. But it's like that idea that I discussed with him at the previous show of like, why don't you just sort of go part-time, and if you want to have a match, message someone in advance, ask about it. We'll try and fit you in because he will be a valuable asset to the card. It's just that he's obviously not in a position personally to commit to that long term.
I mean, we had the booking committee. We came up because we're like, look, let's figure out something for Brandon to do this year. It will be nice to get him to have something to sink his teeth into. Came up with this great idea, and then he 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago, he was saying, I would love to wrestle Circus Royale this year. I want to wrestle Dan Zeppelin. I want to wrestle you. Awesome. And then suddenly,
and those are matches that I would like to see as well. I just want to say that if Brandon ends up listening, I would love to see anything between him and Dan Zeppelin.
Yeah, and I reckon
whether it be a team up or whether it be a versus situation, that is the backyard wrestling equivalent of a money feud right there.
Yeah, I think that would
That's
be a tremendous
just
match.
automatically fantastic.
Yeah.
And I do think that it's disheartening that he wants to retire.
I just think he keeps shooting himself in the foot by coming and going, not knowing what he wants to do.
If he says, I'm back now, I might have to step in some shit along the way, he will eventually come good and be confident with where he is.
But it's kind of similar to Acid.
Exactly.
I mean, Acid was on fire. He was GBYWN Australian Heavyweight Champion.
He was and is still one of the most potentially great young wrestlers that I've ever seen. He could take it as far as he wanted to go. If he wanted to go professional, he could easily go professional. He just had a presence where every one of his matches seemed big.
Yeah. And I feel sad that Acid's no longer on the roster.
But he's not have any hard feelings towards anyone in the Fed, No,
and
so
if
that's what he's
as a person, I love him.
He's great as a person.
But he made some bad choices last year by not at least coming and dropping the belt to someone.
And that's
to have to vacate the title.
These things do happen. These things happen at the highest level of wrestling, so we can't really harp on it too much. But all I want to say about the Brandon situation is that it was a bit of a failed experiment. It didn't go the way that we wanted it to go. But that doesn't mean that Brandon doesn't still have a lot to offer, and
if he wants
doesn't still have a lot to gain if he wants it.
Yeah, if he wants to be a part of it, open arms. We need all the people we can get.
Exactly.
Especially the young guys who have still got a lot to prove and a lot to accomplish.
And he would be. I reckon if he'd been consistently wrestling every show, from when he left the Broken Highway Mafia up until now, he would be hitting his prime right now.
Exactly.
Now, if he comes back, he's going to have a few matches to get into that flow.
He's going to have to build himself back up again.
Yeah,
basically.
But I definitely think that this idea that he seems to have and that other people seem to have that we don't want him to be a part of the Fed is complete bullshit. I want to see Brandon Cage.
And look, I'll admit, I might make him feel unwelcome sometimes when I'm pissed off with him, but it's just because of the way that he has handled himself over the last few months. That's all. I mean, I still really like him, and I would love him to be on the roster still, but it is what it is,
Yeah,
definitely. The ball's in his court, basically, and it's always going to be up to him what he can accomplish.
Yeah,
it's all up to him, basically.
It's the sky is the limit for Brandon. I see the makings of a great young wrestler within him. So that's all I really want to say on that topic. I'd love to see him on more shows in the future, if he wants it.
Okay, DJ, well, we've covered pretty much everything, every part of your career.
It's been a wild ride.
It's been a wild, but we got a Q&A to do
here.
Some of the WZWA boys have pitched in some questions here, and I just want to get through some of them. Luke Monet asked, what were you thinking prior to your WZWA return against BMX? We kind of covered that, but is there any more additional thoughts?
I think that going into it, I was nervous about whether I would be able to achieve the caliber of what I was seeing some of these young guys like the franchise and Chris and Antilochus producing. There was definitely that thing of, if I come back to wrestle, will I live up to the mythos that's been built around me as being this really great, really psychologically sound storyteller in the ring? And then on top of that, I was wrestling this novice who was really turned out to be a fuckwit. And if you're listening, BMX, you're a fucking
he
dickhead.
Won't listen.
He won't, but if he ever does, he's just a fuckwit, and you're about as intelligent and as good in the ring as a potato. But I dragged a good match out of him. You know, he's like a much gayer Sid Vicious.
What the fuck?
And much less talented. So I dragged a good match out of him. My debut wasn't really all I wanted it to be, but my nerves were basically alleviated by the time I came out of the match, and people gave me good feedback on it. And I knew that this would be a good fit going forward once I got over those initial first 1 or 2 return matches.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay. He asked another question. What was it like being on the WZW roster rather than having dark matches and actually being on the roster?
What was it? It really felt good to be a part of something, because I'd been a fan of WZWA from the outset. I liked the guys in it. I liked what they added to my cards in ICWS. I loved the fact that they took the initiative to build a ring. I loved the look of the arena and everything. I thought that this is really growing into something special, and it's going to be a privilege to be a part of it. And I just hope that I can become an integral part of it, because I never like to do anything half-assed.
You are an integral part of it, dude.
I hope I am.
You get in the ring with the young guys and you help them out. Like your match with Ace at the last show, you got in there and you told him what he needs to do to be better. And that's
I do think that was probably one of his best matches so far.
Yeah, and people need to really recognise what
and
DJ's
that's on
doing
him
for the
as
younger
well.
guys.
And that's on him as well. If he's listening, I want him to feel fully that he deserves all the credit for his performance in that match.
Yeah.
He took care of me. I felt safe. The match was good. That's all you can ask. It was fun. He's a sweetheart of a person.
Yeah.
And yeah, just generally once I became part of the roster, I was feeling relieved that I didn't have to be kind of ringmaster behind the scenes, that I could actually go out there and focus on being the best that I could be creatively and really going through a renaissance in the ring.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's really all I can say about that, is that it was excitement, it was all positive, I was welcomed there with open arms. And I felt really proud to be a member of the roster, you know, because I knew that WZWA, having these younger guys in it that knew how to use social media and knew how to get the word out, were happy to have strangers come in and watch the show. I knew that this was going to sort of like take the wrestling scene by storm, and it has. And It's been a privilege to be a part of it.
When people started, there were rumours going around that we were going to close our doors forever. What happens? Heritor from NHPW messages me on Facebook. Hey man,
away.
Are you guys actually
straight away?
Are you guys actually calling it quits? Are there any guys in your roster keen to do some training and join our federation? You know, so I
don't think that
we've made a mark.
I think that made a mark, but I think that also showed that still a lot of people think that WZWA would just, if we folded and some of the guys went into the pro feds, I still think, unfortunately, a lot of the people within those pro feds think, oh yeah, a couple of extra bodies that we can chuck in there to put people over.
Yeah.
Make ourselves look big and tough by throwing them around, and, you know...
I reckon, you know...
I do think that they underestimate exactly how relatable and how, what's the word I'm looking for here? Relatable and how accessible the WZWA personalities are to especially young people in that teenage demographic, which is so hard to reach.
That's what I reckon
by
AAW
the wrestling
did.
scene.
AAW showed a lot of interest in us for a long time, even asking us to be their developmental territory, where they would send some of their inexperienced guys to wrestle on our shows. But I said no to that.
But only people that have...
They had Rex Regan and me.
But you want to know...
And they did nothing with us.
And you want to know... Bodies. Yeah, because they thought that they could pull the wool over the eyes of people there.
They didn't pull the wool.
They didn't realise that they had people like me and you there that knew exactly what they were trying to do.
Yeah,
I will go out and say this, and I hope it doesn't step on any toes. The only 2 organisations out of the pro scene that have actually said, we don't really approve of you yarding, but if you start training with us, we will turn you into the great wrestlers we think you can be, are Schwa and EPW. They want to have the WZWA people, or not want, but they would be happy to have people train with them because they are confident that they could get some good pro wrestlers out of it. They don't just want to use the WZWA boys as bodies for squash matches and stuff. So whenever anyone considers going pro from WZWA, I always say, go to Schwa, go to EPW. Those are the two best professional products.
Well, Delcano's done great in Schwa.
Absolutely,
so far.
and Schwa deserves a lot of credit for bringing out the best in Delcano. Right there. Schwa and EPW, they are the two penultimate professional products in WA.
Well, I would say NHPW. I don't know why, but I feel like they're headed in the right direction.
They're starting to improve. I'll give them that. They're really starting to. And I say this as a fan. I'm not trying to say this as an insider expert. But for my money, if I as a fan, I'd be happy to spend my money on EPW or Schwa. Yeah. At the moment, I would want my money back if I went to AAW or NHPW.
Fair enough. Okay.
I'm sorry. I know that's harsh. I know that's going to step on some.
Well, I
toes.
enjoyed NHPW.
I'm not saying that a lot of people in those organizations are sweethearts, and I like them, and I respect them, and I respect every wrestler that wants to go out there and put their body on the line to wrestle. But for my money, the best professional products, Schwa, EPW. That's where I'd recommend training. Especially Schwa if you want to be a good entertainer and a more well-rounded overall performer. Yeah. EPW if you want to just kick ass athletically and, really take it as far as you can go. Those are the two places I would recommend. And I got nothing but love for the pro scene either.
Yeah.
I'm just saying what my opinion is.
AEW, even though
I'm not trying to
disenchant.
I'm not being some condescending little yarder asshole putting people down. I'm just saying I would not
how you feel.
Yeah, I would not feel comfortable with people going and training with AAW or NHPW right now because
even some of their main roster guys aren't.
It's just I just can see
quality
if if the franchise went to AAW, they'd be getting squashed by James Grace and Joey Angel and stuff, and it's just.
I mean,
and there's nothing wrong with being a jobber or starting out at the bottom. It's just that I don't think that they bring new people in with the intention of creating new integral elements to their cards.
No, they had a year to do something.
They bring people in with the intention of making their stable, pun intended, foundation look better. And that is a problem. That is like the WCW of WA wrestling. NHPW, they've got some great guys. They have passion. I enjoyed the shows like fuck when I went and watched them, but their homegrown talent leaves a little to be desired. So that's all. Not in a negative way. Just my opinion. I'm entitled to it. Separate from yarding altogether.
Has nothing to do with yarding or being yarders. Anyway,
and not that none of them are going to fucking listen to it anyway, but I just want them to know in case they do.
We're getting to the third
I have a lot of love for pro wrestling.
We're getting to the third
but
hour.
This needs to be said, though. This needs to be said, though.
Yeah.
This needs to be said just in case, is that how much love and respect we all actually do have for the pro scene. Because there's this stigma that yarders are just arrogant little assholes that think that they're better than professional wrestlers, and that's not the case.
Yeah. It's funny, the start of that question, we're talking about pro wrestling in Perth now. We were talking about, would you rather, how did you feel being in dark matches rather than being on the roster?
Right, yeah. So the roster was obviously way better than dark matches because I knew that I was going to be a recognised part of the show, and nothing but positive vibes. Loved it. Excellent. Still loved it.
Excellent. Okay, we've got to get to
the
next
next move
question.
On now.
Okay, that answer was
that was
about
awesome.
20 minutes.
That was awesome.
That was good, though. That was really
but we'll move on. We'll wrap it up.
Mykonos asks, naming one match is always hard, so name 3 of your matches you consider to be your best.
Right. So the first one I'm going to go with is the one against you at Seasons being
Really?
2011.
Oh, I got in there, alright.
Fantastic match, like we said before. Physical, hard-hitting, told a good story. Crowd were into it. Fucking people were actually shocked. They were like, shit, Daniel's getting his ass kicked in this match. Like, you know, that was great. Second favourite, fucking Rex Regum, Aussie Anarchy, January 2014. Submission-based, told a good story. Feeling out process at the beginning. Loved it. Got to apply some shit that I learned in my latest tenure with Schwa. And I credit them fully with giving me the skills I needed to go and pull that off. And Rex Regum, I love you. Great match. Love it. Favourite ever, as it stands at the moment, is probably Mykonos at Combat Crisis.
I thought you were going to mention MC Cruel.
I'm sorry, but that'd be the top 4.
Okay.
But I've moved on as a performer since then, and that match with Mykonos was just like off the charts.
Awesome to hear that.
It was
that
physical.
I didn't expect.
There was submissions. We hit hard.
Yeah.
That it moved quick.
It was a good match. I just didn't expect you
to
say it. Yeah,
I know, and I'm sure Mykonos is gonna love the fact that.
Oh
he
yeah,
asked the
he's
question.
dicks in his hand right now.
He's sitting there right now with his golf club going 4. Just the prettier on the outside.
Club, he means dick.
The backslide finish and how the crowd was so into it.
Yeah.
It was just.
Then it built you up for the Aussie title.
Oh man,
well.
that was where I started to really feel like I can do this. I'm contributing something.
Okay, Alex Stone, Rockstar Alex Stone has asked, who do you wish in ICWS/WZWA you had a chance to manage?
Chance to manage? Ooh, that's it's an interesting question. I really would have loved the chance to manage Blade Shaw. Blade is a close personal friend of mine now, which is the power of backyard wrestling, is how it can bring two people that used to be total strangers together, much the same as we became friends.
Yep.
He's just a sweetheart. I would love to cut promos for that son of a bitch and just have him standing there looking like a badass, and just afterwards we'd get together and giggle like schoolgirls and be like, that was so funny when you said that. You know, I can just see that would be a great fit. ICWS, I would have loved to have managed Mykonos, just because we really bonded over our shared love of actually telling a story and using technical skills to try to get a match over.
Yeah.
And I could have just added some of that personality that he was lacking at that time as a character, and then it would have complemented his actual skills in the ring so much. So that's them two. Blade Shaw in WZWA and Mykonos in ICWS.
Okay. Pardon me. Okay, Chris Parker, Rex Regan. Do you have any regrets about your decision to go pro?
If I had any regrets, it's that it took me so long to recognise my strengths instead of focusing so much on my weaknesses. I think my tenure in professional wrestling could have gone a lot better and gone a lot further had I not been so caught up in the stigmas that I attached to my own self with my disability. And if I had have just gone, yeah, maybe I can't get thrown over my head and, you know, do flips off the top rope, but I can talk and I can take a nice bump and I can throw a stiff clothesline. If I had have focused on that stuff instead of always focusing on what I can't do, that would have probably... Attitude is everything, and I think that would have taken me a lot further than... So that's my only regret, and my other only regret was that I didn't make friends with more people in the pro scene. Because most of them are just sweethearts, and I've got a really special place, especially for Jared Slate, in my heart, and...
So do I.
You know,
I don't think he likes me still. I'm not sure.
I don't know, but I'm just saying... I
really like the guy, because he was always good to me.
I wish that I'd sort of integrated myself into their social group a bit more, because I do miss associating with them more, and a lot of them always made me feel welcome and gave me a lot of great feedback, and those would be my only regrets. But do I have a regret overall of venturing out and actually trying to see if I could do this properly? Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. I learnt so much that I can now pass on to others during my time there.
Nick Ariel. asked the question.
Nick Ariel.
Yeah.
Tricky Nicky.
You never got to wrestle him, and I doubt you will, because I don't think he's going to wrestle much more.
Yeah, well, that's because he's a fuckwit. He doesn't realise how much money we could make with like a main event feud.
Oh, it'd be fantastic. He asks, what motivates you outside of just wanting to be a wrestler to get into the ring?
I love the fact that even with a disability, I'm doing something physical. I'm testing my own limitations, and every time I go out there, it builds my confidence. Where I think I'm not just some kid that walks around with a limp and trips over if there's like a raised brick in the floor or something like that. And I love performing. I love to act. I love to like talk and perform.
And we all know you love being the centre of attention.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. fucking Dusty Rhodes impersonation.
Oh, yeah, baby. Right, I'm the hit maker, the record breaker. Woo! Nature Boy, Ric Flair, Kiss Dillon, Willin' Dillon, son of a gun. Fuck yes.
He started off with Dusty and ended with Rick.
Yeah, well, I love them both, Don't underestimate Sting. Yeah, so it's just a general love of performing and making other people smile, as cheesy as it sounds.
Yeah.
That makes me...
That sounds really gay, but it's
it's fucking gay as, but it's all about what feels good. Yeah. So that's really what drives me to keep doing this beyond being able to say that I'm a wrestler. Because few people have ever, walked up to a hot chick at the Vils pad and gone, I'm actually a wrestler.
I'm a wrestler. I pretend to fight people for a living.
Yeah, I've actually locked up with Mike Massive before, and then nobody's ever actually gotten a fucking rub and tug off of that. So it's all about the love of performing, and it's a social thing as well. I love the camaraderie. Some of the best friends I've ever made in my life, more friends than I ever made at school, came from backyard wrestling.
Okay, good answer. Kilowatt Chaos asks, what have you learned most from your experiences in backyard wrestling?
What have I learned most? It's that everybody deserves the chance to show how good they can be in their own way. Flat out. Whether it's Steel or Big Ace or Chaos himself or Knuckles... Or even Alice, who's just phenomenal in her role as the sassy, sexy valet of
backyard jailbait.
Them short shorts on a hot day. Them short shorts and the Ray-Bans. Yeah, everybody deserves their chance to show because everybody has something that they can contribute.
Yeah, everyone deserves their chance in the spotlight. And they get it through doing WZWA.
And everybody deserves the opportunity to be heard and to say, Steel especially is the epitome of the power of backyard wrestling.
Yeah.
Nobody ever thought that beyond being a genuinely nice kid who gave us all a laugh, he would ever amount to much. Now I can one day see him being probably not the top guy, but certainly... stick him in a main event match once in a while and the crowd will just go nuts. The crowd will just go fucking crazy for him. Yeah, imagine if he got a shot at the title and the crowd would be fucking just nuts for it.
They'd be around the ring before the match even started. The match would already be over like Rover before it even began.
It would be one of those intangible things. So that's the biggest thing that I've learned is that even if people aren't as passionate about wrestling in general as you are, they all are there for a reason because they all want to contribute and want to do something.
And it helps with people's self-esteem. So
and it helps their self-confidence.
Ace feels
what
so
a
happy.
sweetheart.
And
what a sweetheart.
To be accepted by a group of guys, These are people that he looks up to and that he's very quiet. He's a very quiet guy.
And I'm sorry, I just want to say as well, I just want to say to Ace, you're a sweetheart. We love you, man. And I'm so privileged that I know you, man. You're just a top bloke.
He's got so much respect. He messages me on Facebook from time to time to say, "Thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of this."
And that there is why you should never judge anyone and write them off.
Yeah.
That there is why Brandon Cage should come back and get a second go around and fucking be great, like we know that he can.
Yeah. Okay, we'll get to the next question.
Right.
Mike Delcano's popped up.
Mickey B.
What led to your name change decisions from Nitro to Declan Diamond to Nightstalker?
Well, basically, the name changes were... the first change from Declan Diamond to Nitro was that actual names, were the big thing in yachting at the time, and I wanted that, you know? Chris Cryptic, CJ Phoenix. Nitro felt very, 12-year-oldish to me.
Yeah, well, I was,
you know?
Taser.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I'm sure eventually you started
I was
to feel that
I want to
way
be
as
asked
well.
on Crude when I go back to yachting.
So, it felt very childish, and I felt that I'd outgrown it, sort of thing, and it felt like a roller derby type name, and I was just like, fuck this shit. And I didn't like the association with Johnny Nitro or WCW Nitro. I just felt like, out of everything I could have picked, that was probably one of the least original.
And it doesn't really fit.
And it didn't really fit my character or anything like that. It's not like I'm a fucking lucha libre prodigy who had been trained by my granddad from age 12 in some church somewhere, some dusty church. How to do why
Declan Diamond? The Diamond Standard Declan Diamond.
I just thought it fit at the time, and I do still think that it was.
I was so against you changing that name.
And then eventually it just grows on you. So at the time, and then the change to my real name was just everybody knew me as DJ, everybody called me Dan anyway, and my character was really, because I was becoming more comfortable with who I was as a person and a performer, I just thought I might as well go by my real name so people can actually just hear my real name, and it's one and the same, you know? Because all my character is a amplified version of myself, and I know that's a real cop-out of an answer, but that's why I wanted to make the change. And maybe it's not the most exciting name, but it's something that I'm comfortable with because it's what I'm used to in everyday life.
Yeah.
And really, I prefer to go by DJ. You know, a lot of people refer to me as DJ. So DJ is really my wrestling name. It's just that Daniel Johnston, for the sake of, proper punctuation and grammar and shit. But... yeah, it was really just I felt that it would be an organic fit with the evolution of my character.
Okay. Well, that's the end of the Q&A section. There's no more questions that the boys have popped in there. But I'm going to finish us off with a few more questions. We're about to wrap this up. This section has gone on longer than the other two. We're almost at an hour.
But you know,
almost at an hour and a half.
It's been good, though.
This part 3 has been almost an hour and a half. It's been very good.
Well, I tried to keep the answers shorter, but then the questions kept getting more in depth.
Yeah, no, it's been really good.
So,
but one thing I want to ask is, what does Daniel Johnston have left to accomplish in backyard wrestling? What do you want to accomplish?
Everything. I want to win the heavyweight title. I want to win the tag team titles. I want to have those matches where people one day go, this is why you're going to get into the Hall of Fame. I want to actually get into the Hall of Fame, but not just that. I want to get there on my merits as a standalone performer, not because of my overall contribution.
Yeah.
And I want to wrestle as many people as I can. And I want to just continue helping people. Because nothing gives me greater joy than actually seeing somebody else that I've guided through the planning process of a match have a great match and feel like they've accomplished something great. And so, basically, I want to keep doing what I'm doing, but just turn it up, a notch. And I don't want to stop wrestling anytime soon. I love it. I'm not embarrassed about it. I'll never be embarrassed about it.
I'm not anymore. I tell people straight up, I'm a backyard wrestler.
I love it.
I don't do the pro thing. I'm a backyard wrestler.
I love it, and I want to keep doing it for as long as circumstance will allow. And it's just a privilege to do, and it's fun, and it gives me a lot of pride. And definitely, there's a lot left to accomplish. I couldn't even go into it, all of it. So
there's one thing that I've always thought, since you've been in WZWA, I feel like you haven't had that one feud that defined your whole time in WZWA. You've had little feuds here and there, little feud
I've
with
never
Fredo,
actually
little
had
feud
a
with Chaos.
I've never had a drawn out.
You haven't had one, because I always have those fucking drawn out things, because I'm the booker and I always give myself the best fucking storylines.
But
no wonder I keep winning feud of the year. But
the thing with Steel was kind of getting there.
With?
Who would I like to feud with? Blade Shaw. Or yourself.
I reckon some Magic will definitely have...
Blade Shaw, absolutely. I love him.
There'll be Magic.
I want to just feud with him and just steal the show with that young man.
He's older than
He's
you.
just... I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck, man. I wanna go out there and just see what we can do. And then beyond that, I want to have a prop feud with you where we really establish, even though we've already got all this history together, where we really establish a rivalry that's on par with what you had with Dan Zeppelin.
Or what I had with Diffuser. Or what I had with Alex Stone.
That's what I want, and I want to have more matches against guys like Antilochus and Ryan Tate. I'm going to get that opportunity to wrestle Ryan at the next show.
Yeah, that's going to be great.
I'm so excited about it.
I can't wait.
I actually invited my mum and stuff to come and watch
Really?
that because I'm so excited and she loves watching me wrestle.
Oh, cool.
She loved it last time she came when I had that great match against Clint Marshall. And I said to her, this is a big match. I want you to be there to watch it.
Good. Okay, well, we'll end this on some... I'm going to say a name.
All right, name association.
Name association.
Bit
I haven't
of
done
rapid
that yet.
fire.
I've only had one podcast before this, but I'll do it. I think I said podcast as well.
Yeah, well, you know.
I'm going to just throw a name out there. Just give me a sentence or a story about that one person.
All right, make it interesting. Make it interesting.
Make it interesting. Okay. Chad Yo.
Great human being. Really picked up wrestling once he became a fan of it. Sad that I haven't seen him since 2008 now. Proud of him for everything that he's done in life and while he was wrestling with us. Would love to lock it up with him or tag with him one more time.
Jack Wallace.
Underrated wrestler. Cops way too much shit. He's had his problems, but don't we all? He's a great young kid. I consider him a great friend. He's welcomed me into his home. I think he's a great young person. I think that his best days as a wrestler are ahead of him. So I really think that I really hope he takes this to heart and listens, because the prime of his backyard wrestling run is ahead of him. And he's had to work hard to get where he is, but his best days are ahead of him.
Yeah. Phaser.
Absolutely a sweetheart of a human being and one of those guys that just gets it.
Dante Daniels.
Another guy that I really respected as a friend and taught me a lot about how to take a bump and how to do this or that before I ever stepped into a pro ring. Shame that he never got to have more matches, because every match that he did have was great.
I'm glad I got to wrestle him.
Was great.
I think that was his last match.
He's a great wrestler. I miss him. I miss hanging out with him.
I always invite him to the events, but he's never come.
No.
Since
got a very complicated life,
yeah.
man. Nothing but good things to say about him.
Blaze,
another guy that was really contributed so much to making those shows fun. And it was just so good to watch him evolve into a guy with 2 left feet, into a guy that had, for the standard at the time, just some fantastic matches, and some great moments. And, another guy that, moved on organically from being interested in wrestling, but no hard feelings. I cherish the memories of, him hitting Blade Warsaw with the computer keyboard and stuff like that,
Okay. Just Mike.
Quality human being, really great with the production side of things. Underrated as a performer, because he wasn't the most athletic guy, but fuck was he over as a heel.
Yeah.
He knew who he was, he knew what his role was, and I always thought it was a pleasure to watch him wrestle.
Good. 3 Dog.
Another guy who's really just hitting his prime now.
Yeah, the last show I was so proud
Another
of.
guy who's just, I mean, I knew as soon as I said that you would be in total agreement.
I'm so proud of him.
He's another guy that's just absolutely can't have a bad match, pretty much.
Best days ahead of him, definitely.
Best days ahead of him. Top human being. I love hanging out with him. I wish I could get to see him more, but, life gets in the way. But one of my favourites in history to watch as a fan of yachting. And just so proud of his progression as a wrestler.
Rockstar Alex Stone.
A guy that I felt privileged to get to know outside of school because I never knew him in school. He was a year above me. He was quite popular in the school because of his music. And I doubted him at first when he first started wrestling. I thought he'll be here for 1 or 2 shows and then fuck off again. But he showed that he has that passion, and he's been a good friend to my brother Nick, and I always appreciate that because Nick has trouble letting people in, making really good friends, and Alex was always there, and he's just a top human being.
DK Joker.
DK Joker, another guy that I think was often overlooked because of the accomplishments that KY Fusion has made. But I mean, even if you go back and watch the match where they won the belts off of Ryan and Blade, did fantastic. Go back and watch the triple threat match that he had a hard time for. Amazing. He's starting to come into his own as well. I think it's only a matter of shows before he really stuns us and leaves us speechless with what he pulls out next.
Yep. Johnny V.
Get sick as fuck of him trolling all the time, but I consider him a good friend of mine, and I've always admired the fact that he knows who he wants to be in wrestling, and always seems to respect the guys that do take it seriously, even if he himself prefers to approach it from a more tongue-in-cheek standpoint. And it's nothing but a laugh riot with Johnny V.
Yeah.
I mean, just go back and watch the match he had with Nick Ariel for confirmation of that.
Man.
One of the most over matches.
Almost won match of the year. It was so close.
Fucking hell,
in the
it
voting.
was so
it
good.
Almost beat that ladder match.
Oh man, it was so good. And another sweetheart. Not a bad thing to say about him.
No, definitely not. Who else? I had someone. Diffuser. I want to know what you think of Diffuser.
Diffuser is a guy that I wish I had a close friendship with the way that it's developed with Blade. Diffuser is a guy that I feel very privileged to have known, and he's a guy that has never treated anybody with anything but respect, and always takes everything he does seriously, whether it be the appearance that he made at the end of the EA versus JD Flame match, or the Hall of Fame speech that he did, or his performance at the roast that we did for you.
Yeah.
He's never been anything but an absolute professional. I kind of think of him as almost like the Undertaker of backyard wrestling, because he's just...
He commands the respect of everyone.
and he shows that respect back.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I could say something about anyone that you name. So
Tim Justice.
Tim Justice, a guy that I was way too harsh on in the beginning, and now he's become a great friend of mine, and I'm thankful that he's forgiven me for my less than stellar treatment of him in the past, and I consider him one of the overall, over the whole span of his wrestling tenure, to be one of the best wrestlers I've ever seen. Going from a guy that couldn't take a proper back bump to stealing the show in those Rising Star matches or in those hardcore matches, and I just love seeing him, and every time he's on a show, he knocks it out of the park.
Dan Zeppelin.
Another great friend of mine. Absolutely love the motherfucker. Talk to him on a daily basis, pretty much. We live 5 minutes away from each other, and we always hang out. He's a guy that's always given me honest advice and never made me feel second rate. And he's a great wrestler as well, despite what people think about him. The match that I had with him at Warpath 2010 and the match that I had with him at Subject to Change 2009, two of my favourite matches from that era, and if you go back and watch them, I still think they hold up. He's just great. And he is the heart and soul of any place that he wrestles for, because he's just everybody's friend.
Brian Lowe.
Sad to see him go. I definitely saw more in him than I saw in Tim Justice, and I think he picked it up faster. Tim Justice and himself are cousins, for those who don't know. Never saw him really have a bad match, pretty much ever. I just saw him have different levels of good matches. So it's sad that he's retiring, but he's definitely got nothing to be ashamed of with his body of work as it stands. But if we do that final ICWS show I referenced before, I want him to be a part of it. Absolutely.
Cool. Mike Delcano.
He's another guy that I think I treated unfairly at the beginning because I didn't like his attitude. I thought that he felt entitled to a title run just because he knew more about the technical side of things than the rest of us. I was quite harsh on his propensity to do a lot of flips and like high spots at the beginning. But now he's developed into one of the best wrestlers, I dare say one of the best wrestlers in Australia. I don't care what he's been booked to do in the pro wrestling. He's a talented guy. He can take it as far as he wants to go.
There's an interesting one. Hydro.
Nice guy. Wish I'd got to know more of him. Some of his stuff in the ring was sloppy at times, but he made up for it with the passion that he brought to his matches, and it was always a fun time to see him wrestle. You know, he's got that thing that Nick Ariel had where part of you worries that he's going to kill himself doing something, but you just couldn't help but be drawn into what he did in the ring. So, and nothing bad to say about him as a person.
Yeah. Rex Regan.
Another really, really close friend of mine. He's had his problems. He still does. He's made an effort to really try to improve himself. As a wrestler, top 4 in backyard wrestling history in WA. Maybe top 10 in Australia right now as a backyard wrestler. Absolutely just gets it. Psychology, submissions, counter wrestling, taking his bumps, making other people that are at a lesser level than him look good. Rex is just amazing, and it's irrespective of any personal issues that he might have had. And I love him personally as a friend. He's always treated me with respect. He loves me. I love him. So, and as a wrestler, he's just one of my inspirations. Like, I aspire to be as good as Rex Regan in the ring one day.
Well, I'm going to do 3 more, and that will be the end of this interview.
Alright then, that sounds good.
Dark Ice.
One of my best friends in the world. He's been my rock and my supporter, just the same as Chaos and a few others have over the years. He always throws 110% into his in-ring work. I've never had to feel like I can't approach him about something. When I had my match against him and I had a nervous breakdown that day and I thought I was going to have a heart attack, he was not angry at me that I might not have been able to do the match. He just said, "I'm here for you." And then we went out and did the match, and it was fantastic. And he made me look like $1 million, and he made me feel safe, and I just hope that I performed to a level that he was happy with in that match. Love him to bits. He's my brother. So, yeah.
Okay, second last one, Bundaberg.
Bundaberg, great human being, great wrestler. His accomplishments in backyard wrestling cannot be denied. Sometimes a bit critical in the way that he judged wrestling, but still never stopped him from really respecting everyone that he met as people, even if he thought they were shit wrestlers. I'm sad that he didn't take it further, and it was good seeing him when he came to an event a while back. So
the door's open.
Yeah, I hope to see one day. I hope that he gets to a place where he actually feels confident to start at least coming and hanging out, because he's always welcome. I don't think there's anyone in the Fed really that knows him that has a negative thing to say about him.
Okay. Last and least. Not the other way. Last and least. Nick Ariel.
Yeah, fuck you, Nick. Fucking faggot. Nick Ariel is a guy that, if he was as committed to wrestling as, say, you or I, he would be champion by now.
Yeah.
He has that intangible quality that makes you want to watch him. He has that quality that draws people to him. He is absolutely fearless in that ring. He is absolutely willing to take any bump he needs to get the match over. And even if he doesn't take it quite as seriously all the time, he always puts a good match together and always makes the other person look like a good $1,000,000. And he's another just quality person. He's another person that we've all been lucky to get that many matches out of him in WZWA.
So
and
lucky, dude.
He's elevated the quality of our cards like tenfold.
It took about a year and a half to get him to join the roster.
Absolutely.
I pitched idea after idea after idea, and finally came on board.
And so, absolutely, once again, I know that I might be letting people down by not creating any controversy, but he's another great human being, and yeah, it's definitely been a privilege to watch him wrestle and a regret that I never got to wrestle him myself. So, yeah, sad to see him go. Wish he would do one more match, especially if we do that return show or final show for ICWS, but wouldn't get my hopes up for anything like that, but, you know, proud of what he's accomplished nonetheless.
Okay, DJ, well, we've covered pretty much your whole backyard wrestling career.
It's been a fucking sick podcast.
Yeah, man, we started during the day and now the sun has gone down.
Yeah, well, we started during the late day, but
yes.
You know,
but we'd be going.
I think that even though it was lengthy, it's been worth doing.
Definitely,
and in depth.
Yeah, and I think everyone will take a lot away from this and would have enjoyed this chat between you and I.
Yeah, definitely.
So, you know, just as we're signing off, thank you very much for everything you've contributed.
You are welcome.
To Backyard Wrestling, to today's podcast, even. Everything you've done, everything you've accomplished is very meaningful. You've helped out people in their backyard wrestling tenure, like JD Flame, Knuckles, Steel Kemsley. When you managed them,
they all helped me. They all helped me become better and have more self-confidence, you know, more self-esteem. So thank you for having me on the podcast.
That's okay. I'm glad that you were on here, and I hope that...
I just hope that everybody wants to listen to it the whole way through.
Yeah, I hope everyone out there is keen to listen to the whole thing.
You know, split it into 3 parts or something.
Yeah, we'll do.
I'll listen to it myself as well.
Me too,
I'm
I
the one
probably
that
will
said
as
it.
well.
Yeah.
And I'll probably drink the whole time, and by the end of it, because of how long it's been, I'll be fucking absolutely paralytic.
You'll be fucking but hell absorbed into it as well.
Right,
so now we're going to go and have a few drinks, have a ciggy, and then go and have a great night out.
Yes, we'll do. So thank you once again, DJ.
It's called
Thank you for listening to the GBYWN Australian podcast. I'm Aston Crude alongside DJ Daniel Johnston, and I will see you, I will speak to you next time.